Welcome. I'm Joe McCall. This is the open office hours. Let me dive into our first deal. You guys ready? This deal is from Miran in Brunswick County, North Carolina. There is Brunswick County right there. Okay, this is why I love Brunswick County, North Carolina. If I go here to Zillow and I'm looking at land, let's go to solds. Let's go to sold in the last 6 months. 1,268 vacant lots sold in the last 6 months. This is why I like Brunswick County. Miran's got a deal there, and she's got a deal. She gave me some GPS coordinates, okay? So let's go into Google Maps, and there's the property. Let's zoom out a little bit to kind of get a feel for where it is. It's kind of southwest of Wilmington. All right, so let's drag this yellow dude. Now, what I like to do is kind of look to see what are the nearest, closest blue lines for Street View. And we can go there and just take a look at what the area is like. Okay, this is what the neighborhood looks like. Let's zoom back out. Let's drag the yellow dude. How about up here? What does it look like up here? There's a lake, some newer homes. Nice, look at that. That's pretty cool. There, for some reason, something's going on out here in North Carolina where there's a lot of activity. And so Miran has a deal where she got a response to her marketing, and she wants to make an offer of $7,500. She thinks it's worth about $30,000. I'm going to open up MapRight. Now I have a parcel ID. So I need to go right here, search by parcel ID, start typing in the county, and then paste the APN. Click go. Is there road access? Yes, that looks good. That's one of the first things I look at. The other thing I want to look at while I'm here is, well, let's get the parcels. You can see the owner is in New York. Cool, because when we pull our lists, the acres is 1.12. Now I want to get this centered on Zillow. I want to look this property up in Zillow, but I don't know where it is here on Zillow, right? So one of the things I like to do from Google Maps is zoom in. I'm looking for an address, a house, a residence. And you can see this little shaded thing right there. That looks like a house. So if I click on that, it gives me an address right there. Cool. Then I can go to Zillow and I can type in an address, paste the address, wait for it. You got to sometimes wait for the drop down to give you the address. Boom, there it is. All right, so now I'm zooming out, and guess what happens? Remember my property is right here in the center of that map. So by finding that address, I can look it up on Zillow, and now I can center my property that I'm looking at in the center of this map. All right, so mine is 1.12 acres, right? So I'm going to do some filtering here, 1 to 2 acres. And I want sold in the last 6 months. I'm going to remove boundary. So my property is in the center of this map, and I'm just going to keep on zooming in and out until I get more comps. Now I have 17 comps. 5,500, 8,100, 9,000, 10,000, 10,000. Okay, cool. I also have a bunch of properties that are real expensive, but these have homes on them, which sometimes, even though you're selecting lots only, houses still come through. So I might say, all right, exclude anything over $100,000. So I have 10 comps now. Let me zoom out one more time. I've got 30 comps. The more, the better. And you can see I have this sorted from low to high. These are a lot of good sold comps. Now, before you get discouraged, because sometimes people look at this and think, oh, no, there's properties here that sold for $2,000. I'm going to have to offer 25% of that. No, these are the prices that investors bought. This is about the area that you need to be at. And it's just sometimes a real quick and dirty way to get comps is to average the lowest 4 or 5. We have 2,000 plus 3,000, which is 5,000, right? Plus 3,500, which is 8,500, plus 5,500, which is 14 grand, right? 14 grand. 4 divided by 14 grand. 14 grand divided by 4 equals 3,500. And then usually what I do is multiply that by 80%. So just a real quick and dirty way is take the average of the lowest 3 to 4 solds times 80% to come up with a good offer, a simple, fast offer. Make sense? One of the things I like to look at here is what is for sale, because I want to know what my competition is. And there's only 7 listings. There's 3 for sale by owner listings, 7 agent listings. But when I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, all right, I need to be the cheapest property. And this one is not too far from mine. And it's about the same size. And it's been on Zillow for 95 days. 1.08 acres. Good pictures. By the way, if I'm looking for a realtor to help me list the property, I look to find realtors that take good pictures. And if they have aerial photos, the better. So you can get their name and numbers information right here. Okay. So this one's been on Zillow for 95 days. If I want to sell mine aggressively, I want to be aggressive so I can sell my properties quickly. I better make sure that I'm going to be listing mine less than anything else out here that's comparable. And so, yeah, mine's a little bigger. It's 1.12 acres, but what is that? 0.04 acres bigger. I'm thinking right now I'm going to be selling mine. Well, sometimes what I do is I take 15,000 times 85%. 15,000 times 0.85. I want to probably advertise it for around 12,750. So from there, I usually multiply that by 25% to come up with my offer. So that means my offer is going to be about 3,188. So I have 2 offers, don't I, so far? 3,188 and 2,800. I think that's about all I can say. I mean, what could we sell this property for? I just kind of answered it. Now, Miran said we should be able to sell it for 30. You might be right, Miran, but I don't know. Because why would somebody want to buy yours for 30 when they can buy, this one for 15 grand? This 2 acre for 45. You might be right. I mean, you might be able to find a realtor that can sell it quickly for you. Let's look at solds again. Oh, I made the cardinal sin. Dang gummit. This is what I don't like about Zillow. Okay, when I was looking at Zillow solds last 6 months, I forgot to change it. So when I'm looking at actives, you have to change it to any, or otherwise it's only showing you the properties that have been on the market for less than 6 months. You see what I'm doing there? So in Zillow, when you're looking at for sales, you have to make sure you change days on Zillow to any. When you're looking at solds, you need to make sure you're changing this to sold in the last 60 days or 90 days or whatever. And then when you switch to for sale, you got to change it again. Change it back. Don't forget that. This is one of the reasons why I like Redfin. Let's paste the property in here. It takes me to the center of that property. I'm going to do solds last 6 months. Done. Let's look at filters, land, lot size. I want 1/2 acre to 2 acres. Photos, and I like to sort by low to high. You're never going to get the same numbers. See, Zillow's giving me more, but maybe I need to zoom out more in Redfin. Yeah, so sometimes, Zillow is giving me a bunch of these solds for $2 grand, 3,500, but Redfin is not giving me those. Then when I switch to for sale with Redfin, I don't have to change the days on market. It just automatically switches it. So here I'm looking at active comps. Sometimes, let me just say this. Active comps sometimes are more important than sold comps, because sold comps are important, but when it comes up with making an offer, if you want to sell yours fast, you want to sell yours at maybe 85% of what everyone else is selling theirs for. Similar, right? So you come up with a number, and you think, all right, I could probably sell this for this, and then you just do 25% of that. That's your offer. So looking at this again, I'm thinking, this is my competition right here. 15 grand. I want to sell mine for 13 grand. So I'm going to offer about $3,000. I would offer $31.88. That's what I would offer. See? I figured, well, they're selling for about 15 grand. I'm going to offer mine at 85% of that. So I take $12,750 times 25% to come up with this. So if I sell it, let's look at the profit numbers here, just rough. If I sell it for $12,750 and I subtract about $1,300 for realtor commissions, subtract $1,500 approximately for closing costs, and let's say we borrow private money for the deal. So we're going to have about $500 in private money costs. Okay. What did we get there? We take $12,750 minus $1,300 minus $1,500 minus $500. What's our profit on this deal? $94.50. You should be shooting for $10,000 minimum profits. I want you guys, when you're doing your vacant land and your house deals, you should always be shooting for a $10,000 minimum profit. Because guess what happens when you shoot or when you aim for that? You get it. So we're taking the sale price minus, let me break this down so you guys can see what it is I'm doing here. Okay. So realtors, about 10%. Closing costs, usually about $1,000 to $1,500, and private money. That's the cost of private money. This number may be totally off. Advertising it for $12,750. And you may find a realtor that says, yeah, you know what? I can sell it for $30,000 all day long, and I already have buyers that would be willing to pay that. So darn it. Okay, fine. Instead of making $9,400, you might make $19,400. And did you guys just see the error that I made? I said here, remember I was going to advertise it for $12,750. And minus this, minus that, minus that. So this was actually what I walk away with. That's not my profit. Just made an embarrassing mistake. I still have to subtract what I paid for it. I bought this property for $31.88. So my net profit on this deal would be $6,200. Always have to subtract. I mean, that's what realtors do. They tell you, yeah, we made, we sold $50 million worth of real estate, or our top line was $50 million. That just means they sold $50 million worth of real estate. You always have to subtract your cost to purchase the property. Let's look at the next deal. This is a deal from Tamara, Collier, Florida. And I have some GPS coordinates here. Oh, there it is. Not much of nothing out there, which is fine. Oh, there are some homes there. Okay. And this is 4.77 acres. I'm going to write this down. Oh, and Tamara has a signed contract with the seller. She thinks it's worth $147,900. She got it under contract for 30 grand. And this is the price that priced said the market value was that. She wants to sell it with seller financing. She's having a hard time getting comps. Well, let's take a look at it, huh? With a vacant lot, you usually don't get an address of a vacant lot, right? So sometimes all you get is the GPS coordinates. And I want to pull this property up in Redfin, so I need an address of something out here. And let's see if I can get an address of something nearby. You can go into Redfin, and this is Collier. Well, we know the zip code of this property. I have the APN number. Let's look that up. Let's go to map right. Back to the previous deal, one of the things you want to look at is it in a floodplain? And when you are, and we'll do this for this Florida property because it's more important. You can here look at wetlands. Oh, check this out. Whoever that was that we were just looking at that previous Miran, your property might be in a wetland. Not that it's a deal killer, but you just have to disclose it. So this is an area, if I zoom out, I'm assuming just because of coastal flooding, if I zoom back in, your lot might be in a wetland, but it's not a floodplain. So maybe that's a big deal, maybe it's not. But let's go back to, we have to go to Collier County. I'm going to create a new map, go to Florida, get started, search by parcel ID, owner, Collier County, and I have the APN number here, copy, paste. Okay, so the property address, what I wanted to do here was get the zip code. And you can see the zip code is 34117. Now let's zoom out a little bit. And by the way, both properties are pretty flat areas, but if they were more hilly, you'd want to look at the 3D and kind of zoom in and zoom in around to see what the terrain is like. But it's not, so we're good. Now I'm going to X out of here. Our property's right in the center. And I'm going to go to overlays, and I want to do FEMA floodplain. So, yeah, that shows the whole area is blue. Let's see if it's a wetland. Well, again, not a deal killer. Sometimes, though, you need to look more at the state-specific level or the county level to see the wetlands and the floodplains information. Just be aware of that. Now, it doesn't mean this is a bad deal because people are still buying land in Collier County. And let's look for this property here real quick. So we said the zip code was 34117. So I'm going to remove outline. Let's do the yellow dude to see what street view is like. And here we go. Drop them right there. So it's somewhere over here. So we're at the intersection of 75 and 29. 75 and 29. So if we go here to Redfin, there's 75. If I zoom in. So again, that's one of the reasons why I want to try to find an address so then I can just get there a lot better. So this is telling me right in this area is where the property is located. All right, I'm going to zoom out, kind of make that the center of my map, and I'm looking for land. All right, I'm a little nervous right now. Why? Because nothing else is for sale right here. If I go to solds, last 6 months, let's look at the last year. Let's do a search for 2 to 5 acres, because remember ours was 4.77. Let's do 3 to 5 acres. Let's do 3 to 10 acres. This thing sold within the last year. This one sold for 41 grand. In March, so a week ago, it's 5.1 acres. Be curious to know who bought it. Were they an absentee owner, like from out of state, like an investor? Public records. Oh, this is interesting. So we're kind of below this gray area. This property is right in that gray area. So our property is right about there. So this is a good comp. Sold for 41 grand. What I'm nervous about, there is no active listings anywhere in here. If I go to for sale, the closest one, the closest active listing is this one for 150. Solds last 6 months, last year, last 2 years. Oh, there's another one that sold for 45. So here's what I'm thinking. Somebody bought these two lots for 40. Someone bought this one for 45. Someone bought this one for 49. My offer is going to be about 40% of that. If I take the average of 41,000 plus 45,000 plus 49,000, it's 135 divided by 3. $45,000. Somebody probably could have said that. I'm going to take that times 40%. It's going to give me about 18 grand. That's going to be my offer price. Now, how much am I going to sell mine for? When I sell mine, it's worth about 45 grand. I'm going to sell mine for about 85% of that. I'm going to list mine for $38,250. And if I subtract realtor commissions, about 4 grand, I subtract closing costs, I subtract, if I'm going to be borrowing, I'm buying it for 18, I'm going to be borrowing 10% of that. I have about $2,000 in private investor money, interest. So again, this is realtor commissions, closing costs, private money. You can use your own money if you've got it, but if you don't, well, then you're going to borrow 18 grand to buy it, and you're going to pay about 10%. So 18,000 times 10% is 1,800 to a private investor. Not bad. That's really good money. So I bumped it up a little bit because you're going to also borrow some extra money for closing costs. So the difference in all of that, if I'm selling it for $38,250 minus 4 grand, minus 1,500, minus 2,000. I'm just wondering if I made a mistake on my last time I was calculating this. 30,750, and I'm buying it for 18 grand. My profit's going to be 12,750. That's my profit. It's worth about 45. We want to be aggressive. We want to list it aggressively. If we list it for 38, maybe that guy who bought the other property nearby for 41 grand will be interested in it. Subtract realtor commissions, closing costs, private money costs. This is what we walk away with, minus what we purchased the property for. And our net profit on the deal is $12,750. Tomorrow, if you're watching this, you went ahead and you already offered 30 grand. You're hoping you could sell it for 148. Maybe you can, I don't know. But this is, again, one of the biggest benefits for why we have 3 months of due diligence on these properties. 3 months of due diligence means if we're off, then we can go back to the seller, renegotiate a lower price, or just cancel the agreement. What you could always do too is you could say, Mr. Seller, if I can't, I'm going to need to be more down by the $18,000 mark. And if you want to cancel, that's fine. I'm sorry. I might be able to get you something closer to 30, but it's not going to be me. There's no way I can buy it for 30 grand, but I might be able to find somebody else who can buy it for 30 grand. So then you get it under an option, a 6-month option agreement, and then you can go advertise that option or sell that option to somebody else for a quick 5 to 10 grand. You can assign your option to somebody else to buy that vacant lot. So don't feel bad if you have to go back to the seller. You can just say, and blame it on the market. Blame it on the market is telling me that this property is not worth 30 grand. Sorry, it's the economy. It's the collapse of that Silicon Valley bank. There's nothing I can do about it. So I'm sorry. We need to renegotiate a lower price or cancel, or I can keep that price maybe, but I'm going to give you an option. And that way the seller knows you're not going to be the one buying it. It gives you time then to go find another buyer for it, and you've got it tied up in an option, which then you go and advertise and sell that option. All right, so let's look at one more. This is from Marcia. So this is Nacogdoches, Texas. It's a big old county. And this is a property, it's 1.72 acres. So let's just see what we can find in Zillow, shall we? Again, Texas, it's always hard to get comps because it's a non-disclosure state. And that's just the way it goes sometimes. This one is 1.7 acres. So let's just look 1 to 2 acres. All right, this is where we're going to rely more on. Let's just see if Redfin has anything. Sometimes Redfin gives you comps, sometimes they don't. For Texas, Zillow doesn't give you comps, Redfin does. This might be it's the last list price, which is helpful still. Let's change our filters here. to 1 to 2 acres. No results, okay? Let's change it to 1 to 3 acres. No results. Let's look at actives. Okay, so if I go to Land Watch, we usually start with Land Watch because it's going to tell us the most popular counties where most of the properties are being bought and sold. So we want to, stay under 150 grand. We are looking for cheaper vacant properties. I'm going to scroll down. There's a lot of counties in Texas, and I'm going to mark as the solds here. We're looking at solds and actives in Texas from Land Watch. And scroll down. These are the most popular counties of properties that have been listed for sale and or sold on land.com, the land.com websites. And Nacogdoches, whatever, is not even anywhere on this list. Where is it? I'm going to do a Command F, Nacogdoches. There it is. It's right there, 181. Way down on this list. All right, so maybe this is a county where you live, but or it's just a county that you like to vacation and you think it's great. Here's the problem, though. This is so important. This county, there's not a lot of activity there, and if I click on it, there's no investors doing deals there except, like, if you go here and all you see are realtors listing properties, it tells you there's not a lot of investors. Now, I'm not saying you can't do deals here, but it's going to be hard. A lot of these guys that are listing them are realtors, but okay. Maybe there is something here. Maybe there is something here. And you got this property under contract, or you wanted to offer $10,900. You think it's worth about $48,000. And you've got the numbers from Priced. All right, well, let's look to see what Priced gives us. And you'll see some of the limitations from working with Priced. We're going to do a comp report. Texas is hard because it's hard to get comps. It's a non-disclosure state. And Texas is huge. So sometimes it's just so big. If you can make Texas work, you can make a killing at it. But for somebody who likes to take the lazy, easy way to do deals, Texas has just proven to be a little harder than what I'm normally used to for doing deals. So call me lazy, but when I can do deals very easily in states like Florida, North Carolina, Oklahoma, California, some other states that we've been in, why would I want to try to do it in a hard state? Now, I'm gonna copy and paste the APN number as Marcia gave it to me. But one of the problems when you're doing this in Price is it has to be exactly right. Let's look it up anyway in MapRight. Let's create a new map. Texas. Get started. Search by parcel ID. Well, here we go. There's a bunch of properties that kind of came up. So ours was 1.72 acres. There is an address here. Let's try searching by address. No, I'm not getting anything here from this drop down. I have to have the GPS coordinates because I can't find this property for some reason. Well, I have the name of the owner, and I don't see the name of the owner anywhere on this list. The good news is we did get a comp report, and let me show that to you. All right, so let's look at it. Here's the comp report. 1.72 acres. They're saying it's worth about 58 grand. Now, anytime you see any values from Priced, you need to take it with a grain of salt. They're looking at all of the comps, no matter if it's cheap or expensive. They're looking at all of them. And sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes it's not. So here are the for sale comps. And you can see these are kind of far away. 5, 10 miles, 10 miles, 11, 14. You can see links that take you to them. So this is, again, these are for sale comps. Let's look at this first one here. The second one, Lands of America, 1.5 acres. for 75 grand. So when you're doing deals in Texas, it is better to use priced for your comps. It's another property from Zillow. Sometimes these are lots that are all kind of next to each other. That's one of the bad things about price. Sometimes they'll give you a bunch of comps, but they're all for the same property. So you kind of have to take that with a grain of salt. Let's look at solds. Not a lot of sold comps. So again, this is why I don't like going into counties that aren't, where there's not a lot of activity. Because when there's not a lot of activity, it's just hard to find comps for these things. They're all over the place. They range from 18 grand to 170 grand. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm just looking at these comps, properties nearby. 3 acres, but that's like in a residential area. This one is close, 0.8 miles, sold for 24 grand. $1.24 is similar in size to the one you had. Yours is 1.72. This is 1.24. Well, this is a good comp. It's sold for 24 grand. You're buying yours for 10,900. All right, so let me show you the table that I like to see. This is the offer price index. Normally, you got 3 columns here: county offer, city offer, geo-adjusted offer. And I just want to go with the lowest one of the 3. So I would probably offer 14,708. You offered 10,900. Good for you. You offered less. But these are the kinds of deals where when you're in a state that's hard to get comps, sometimes you just have to get it at the best price you can, take the best stab at it as you can, and then get the market to tell you whether it's a good deal or not. Once you get it under contract, then you get on the phone, you call a bunch of realtors who are familiar with that area, and then you get them to give you their value of the comps. This is Google Earth, and when I got that comp report from Priced, it gave me this here. The green is ours, and then these yellows are some solds. So this 3.37 sold for 18 grand. This 1.2 sold for 140. This one right here sold for 24 grand. This one is currently listed for 28, and it's bigger. So you know what I would do now that I'm looking at it on a map? I would just go over after. These would be my 2 comps. This one sold for 24 grand. This one is currently for sale for 28. I want to be at least 25% of this. What I would have done, I would offer 24,000 times 25. I would have offered 6. And I was just talking to my acquisitions manager about this. I was talking to him and I was saying, because he was complaining, Texas right now, it's just so hard. I'm spending 45 minutes on each one. I said, listen, we can't be spending that much time on making an offer. We just need to go in, get the best information we can. And when you're in a state like Texas where it's harder to get comps, let's just look at the comps at what Priced is giving us. Let's go with the number that Priced says. Maybe check and verify that. Let's look to see, all right, if we offered 6, can we sell it for at least 20 grand? Look at the active comps in the area. And if we feel like, yeah, maybe good, let's go for it. It shouldn't take longer than 10 or 15 minutes to come up with a value. And sometimes you just got to take your best stab. If the seller, especially in Texas or areas like this, you need to get the sellers on the phone and talk to them. Find out what is the lowest that you would accept for this property. What's the least you would take? And ask them 3 different times and ask them questions like, why don't you just list it with an agent? Why do you even want to sell it? What are you going to do when you sell it? What are you going to do with the money? What's more important to you, Mr. Seller? To sell it as quick as possible or to sell it for the highest price possible? And then just play the reluctant buyer. You should probably list it with an agent. Have you thought of that? So then get from the seller what the lowest price is. And when you have the lowest price from the seller, you look at what you're finding from Priced, and you have 3 different numbers. Pick the lowest one, send them the offer, and go with it. Then you put it out there on the market, and the market will tell you whether you have a good deal or not. You might be pleasantly surprised. We're sitting on 2 deals right now where we're going to make $24,000 assignment fee on both of them in the same little county in Florida. So we're going to make about a $48,000 assignment fee. We're doing these as assignment fees. They're little 0.3 acre lots. We had a hard time coming up with an offer. We just came up with the offer, put it out there, and sure enough, guess what? A realtor is making an offer to buy these things from us. Like the realtor himself is making the offer to buy them by owner. So you just never know. You get it at the lowest price that you can, put it out on the market, let the market tell you what it's worth. And if you're not getting any calls within a month, something's wrong. You need to go back to the seller, renegotiate a lower price. It's always easier to negotiate a lower price once you have it under contract. So get it under contract at the best price. So here I'm saying you should offer $6,000. You got it under contract for $10,900. That's okay. I may be totally off. You may be right. Just get it out there. Start marketing it on Facebook Marketplace, Facebook groups, Craigslist, land.com, different websites, Zillow if you can, and get it out there and see if you get any bites. Especially if you're offering owner financing, you may get a lot more interest than you realize, than you think you would. Okay, so we need to wrap this up. Again, guys, I just want to invite you one last time to go to the landmarketingbootcamp.com, landmarketingbootcamp.com. As I'm recording this, I'm doing a boot camp in a few days, and I'm going to be solving the 2 biggest problems that most beginning land investors and house investors have: getting the leads and getting the money. I'm going to obliterate those problems, and it's right here at the landmarketingbootcamp.com. We'll see you guys. landmarketingbootcamp.com. Take care, and bye-bye.